I spent $26,000 snowmobiling this year, and here's how I did that. Now you may ask, how did you spend $26,000 snowmobiling? Well, we gotta start off with the big ticket items. The snowmobile. This is a 2026 Summit Adrenaline. I've talked about in previous videos. That cost me $23,638.67. Of course, being that I'm not made of money and make poor financial decisions, I financed that for 15 years at $253 bi-weekly. Other than that, I did spend $411 on insurance for the year, whatever that works out to a month. That's where most of the big ticket money came from. And that's just to own a snowmobile. I'm gonna break down how much it actually costs to ride this thing. And it's a lot more surprising than you'd think, even to myself. Now, there are some expected costs when it comes to snowmobiling, like gas, oil, and all that. I went on 10 rides this season, totaling about 425 kilometers. To break it down, that cost $170.57 in premium gas, one bottle of oil or jug of oil that costs $84. I spent $40 on ratchet straps to tie the thing down onto my trailer. In terms of gas, to actually get to where we were going, I put 2 tanks of fuel into my Jeep, which totaled about $165 of 87. That doesn't get the nice stuff. And that wasn't all. Some of the rides I did hop in with a buddy and put my sled in his trailer to save both wear and tear and just time trying to drive to a lot of the more other spots that were farther away. That cost me $80 in e-transfers for my share of the gas money. Now, the other costs to be expected. For example, I spent $125.47 on things like Tim Hortons Farmers Wraps in the morning, Monster energy drinks, as well as a meat and cheese stick before every ride. This also includes stopping at a restaurant on the way back from the rides, or sometimes riding from where we're riding to a restaurant for a $10 poutine and $5 beer. All in all, in these expected costs, it was only $656.03. Now, anyone who's ridden with me knows that I cost money in other ways. For example, on one of my first rides, I made a small error and fell off the side of the trail and cracked my front bumper. And while navigating around a tree, I got a little too close and I broke the clutch vent on the side. That clutch vent was $122. However, I had it installed at the dealer, buying the heavy-duty clutch vent, and because of that, I had the stock one lying around and I popped that one back off. I will continue to buy the stock ones. They are $22. Now, that's only the beginning for mishap. Another ride I had went on, after coming back to the trail, one of my friends exclaimed, "Someone's leaking coolant," and I have bad enough luck knowing, even though I had not put myself in a position where I would have maybe gotten a rock into my heat exchanger, I knew it was me. So after realizing, I then put a hole in my heat exchanger, I rode to a nearby restaurant, got a couple beers, and then towed the sled home. And that left me with the problem of I had to fix that. Now, anyone who knows a thing about Gen 4 or Gen 5 Skidoos knows that the tunnel cooler or heat exchanger is a part of the tunnel. Technically, you can replace it. They are friction welded from the factory. I don't have a friction welder. I don't think anyone has a friction welder. So you can replace it and about 200 rivet for about $2,500 if you have that kind of time. Or you can weld it. I went with the welding option, being that it was cheaper and also faster. So that cost me $74.55 in tungsten and filler rod and coolant to refill it back up, and then $50 in bush light to my friend, who is a much more skilled welder than I am, to weld that hole. Now, anyone who's seen my most recent video knows that it doesn't stop there. Now, on my most recent ride, I made a small miscalculation in my landing and did end up connecting the front bumper with a tree, as well as some other stuff. That's why I didn't include the bumper cost in that original mention of cracking the bumper, as this is the one that fully cracked the bumper. In plastic damage alone, this is $891.47, from the belly pan to the side panel to all the miscellaneous bracketry of plastics that I broke under here. That's also not including a bumper. That is because I haven't made a decision on what bumper I'm going to go with. I've got a couple ideas in mind. What I do know is I probably won't buy this cast bumper again. Could do heavy duty cast bumper. This was $800 and was installed when new, because everyone who knows me recommended I buy the biggest bumper they have. Now, my complaint with the heavy duty Skidoo bumper is that it is clearly not heavy duty enough for my riding abilities. So I will most likely be going with either a BM Fab or a backwoods bumper for next season. Now, anyone who knows anything about money knows that that is a lot of money on a sport that you partake in for 3 to maybe 4 months of the year at most. I had a lot of memorable riding moments this year, a lot of riding moments I wish I would not remember. And all in all, I think it was a pretty good season, all damages considered. Now, I'm going to tally up the grand totals in a couple different ways. Counting all the money that I've spent, and by that I am including what the bank loaned me at the start of the season, it comes to $27,250.74. Now, that's also implying that I never ride the snowmobile again. So a much more realistic cost, not counting the purchase of the sled and the insurance, it was $1,694.07. That is counting the damages and the gas and all those miscellaneous costs. I think is pretty good for someone that has a history of breaking stuff. If you count this sled purchase, there was about $2,700 per ride. Of course, I'm not stupid, and this amount will get lower as I own the snowmobile for more, but counting my payments for the season, that works out to about $360 per day of riding, which, considering on a brand new sled, if you look at rental cost, you're $500, $600 a day for a rental, which I think is pretty good, all things considered. Now, the question is, was it worth it? Yes. Now, if you ask me in July, I may have a different answer to that question, but coming off the end of the season, I think it was well worth it. Now, if you're thinking about buying a sled, keep in mind that these numbers may not fully reflect your experience, but they are an idea of what to expect. If you're simply riding trails or going ice fishing, your costs will be a lot cheaper. If you're also new to the sport, I would recommend going with a used sled just to minimize your investment into the sport, and then as you get better you can pick up something newer. Definitely considering just getting into ice fishing for next season, being that all of my costs would then just go to beer. Now, next up, unfortunately, there will be no more trees for me to hit. So the next video you will see a video of all the trees that I've hit this year.